Hello, friends. Welcome to biology. Of course, I'm Mr. Ryan, and guess who's back? Bob Dylan. Today, we're going to talk about chapter 7.2, which has to do with cell structure and function. Here are our key questions. What do all cells have in common? What are the main differences between prokaryotes and eukaryotes? What are the main structures and function of the cell and its organelles? What are the main differences between plant and animal cells? First of all, what do all cells have in common? All cells have a plasma membrane, or it can be called a cell membrane. So if you look over here at the prokaryotic cell, this outside is the membrane, the cell membrane, or the plasma membrane. Same here at the eukaryotic cell, cell membrane. Remember, this is a eukaryotic cell because it has a nucleus. This prokaryotic cell because the DNA is just floating around in the cytoplasm. All cells have cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is just the jelly-like material that's everything's floating around in. Okay? All cells have genetic material, DNA. Remember, deoxyribonucleic acid. And all cells have ribosomes. Those are little dots. They're important because they make proteins. Again, the review of the eukaryote versus the prokaryote. Over here we have the prokaryote. Again, we have the cell membrane, the cytoplasm, the ribosomes, and the DNA. Okay? And keep in mind, the prokaryotic cell does not have a nucleus. Over here at the eukaryotic cell, again, we have the cell membrane, the cytoplasm, the ribosomes, and the DNA is inside a nucleus. So, we have a nucleus here, no nucleus over here, and we have organelles over here, which we'll talk about shortly. Structures within a eukaryotic cell that perform important cellular functions are known as organelles. In our body, we have organs. We have heart, lungs, right? We have organs. Well, the word organelles just means little organs. So cells have things called organelles. Eukaryotic cells do. Cell biologists divide the eukaryotic cell into two major parts, the nucleus and the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is the portion of the cell outside the nucleus. So here's a good picture of a eukaryotic cell, in this case, an animal cell. So we have, again, the nucleus and the cytoplasm, which that last slide talked about. So since this chapter is about the structures and the functions, we're going to look at a general picture here of the cell, and we'll go into more detail on later slides. So here's our cytoplasm, here. Here's our nucleus. Okay. Here's our cell membrane, right? Our cell membrane right here. Cell membrane going around the cell. So cell membrane, cytoplasm, ribosomes. Okay, they're all right here. There's little dots. They're all right here in this animal cell. Okay. This is what we're going to be talking about, the mitochondria. We call it the powerhouse of the cell. Remember when we talked about cells in the past, we've talked about the cell could be considered like a little city. So the nucleus would be City Hall. The mitochondria would be like the power plant. The lysosomes could be like the garbage men. We'll talk about them because they get rid of things in the cell that shouldn't be there. And the Golgi body takes protein, modifies it, and sends it to different parts of the cell or outside the cell. So the Golgi body is like a post office if we're looking at the cell like a city. Okay, we'll show you all the parts and where they're located. There's that's a nucleolus. This green part's the nucleus. So what's the nucleolus? The nucleolus is a dark spot inside the nucleus, and it's where ribosomes are made. There's the nucleus. There's the nuclear envelope. It's on the outside of the nucleus. It's sort of like a membrane that separates the nucleus from the cytoplasm. It allows things to get in and out of the cell. There's the rough endoplasmic reticulum. You see this brown, like tubes pushed up against the nucleus. That's a rough endoplasmic reticulum. It's rough because it has ribosomes on it. Remember, those little dots are ribosomes. Centrioles, they're found in animal cells. They help with cell division because we have to make other cells, and cells have to divide to do that. There's the mitochondria, the mighty mitochondria. There's the Golgi body apparatus, which we'll talk about in greater detail in a little bit here. There is the ribosomes attached to the endoplasmic reticulum. There's the cell membrane. There are the ribosomes, those little dots. And there's the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Rough endoplasmic reticulum here. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum here. And smooth endoplasmic reticulum makes lipids. Plant cells, you'll see a lot of similarities, but there's a few differences between a plant and animal cell. Of course, there's the nucleolus we talked about, the nucleus, the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, the rough endoplasmic reticulum, the cell wall. Oh, plants have a cell wall, but animals don't. So there's one difference. There's a cell membrane. Remember, all cells have a cell membrane. There's a chloroplast. Animal cells don't have that. Chloroplast is involved with photosynthesis, where the plants take carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight and turns it into sugar and oxygen, which is good for us. There's a vacuole. Well, remember, in the plant cell, the vacuole is large, but in the animal cell, it's small. So there's another difference between plants and animal cells. There's the mitochondria. There's the Golgi body apparatus. There's the ribosomes attached to the endoplasmic reticulum, the rough endoplasmic reticulum. There's ribosomes that are free, and then there's the nuclear envelope, which we talked about in the animal cell. So what are the differences? Let's pay attention now, students, between a plant and animal cell. Plant cell has a cell wall. Plant cells have chloroplasts, and plant cells have a large vacuole. Okay, those are three differences between plants and animal cells. So what's the function of the nucleus? The nucleus is the control center of the cell. It's the boss. The nucleus contains nearly all the cell's DNA, with it the coded instructions for making proteins and other important molecules. Again, you've seen this picture, but here's a thing called chromatin. Chromatin is DNA. It's very thin, and it also contains protein. But when a cell goes to divide, and we'll talk about this in later chapters, when the cell goes to divide, that chromatin thickens up and becomes chromosomes. What's the function of ribosomes? One of the most important jobs carried out in cells making proteins. Well, guess who does that? The ribosomes make the proteins. Ribosomes are small particles of RNA and proteins found throughout the cytoplasm. What is the function of the endoplasmic reticulum? Well, there's two types of endoplasmic reticulum we talked about. There's the rough, where ribosomes hang out, so it's involved with making proteins. And then there's the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, which makes lipids. We saw those in the previous slides. What's the function of the Golgi apparatus? Remember I talked about this? It's the job to package up the proteins that the ribosomes make, and they modify it. They add things to the proteins, and then they ship them to different parts of the cell, okay? Or they can ship them outside the cell. So again, the Golgi apparatus is like a post office. And there's a picture of the Golgi apparatus. Okay, it looks like a stack of membranes just kind of pushed together. And what is the function of the lysosomes? Remember, I called them the garbage men of the cell if our cell was a city. Well, lysosomes also act like the digestive system. They break down or digest proteins and acids that are coming into the cell that need to be used. But they also get rid of things that shouldn't be there, like dead organelles and other unwanted materials. That's why I call them the garbage men of the cell. What's the function of vacuoles? Think of vacuoles like vats, okay? In this case, the vacuole in a plant cell is very large. Vacuoles are also found in some unicellular organisms and in some animals. Here we see a picture of a contracting vacuole. When we talked about the characteristics of life, we talked about homeostasis, maintaining the balance inside you, internal environment. Well, humans keep our body temperature at 98.6, so we try to stay warm when it's cold and try to cool down when it's hot. In this case, this paramecium has too much water getting in, so it uses this vacuole to pump water out to maintain homeostasis. So the paramecium contains a contracting vacuole that pumps out excess water. What's the function of the mitochondria? I love the mitochondria. Nearly all eukaryotic cells contain mitochondria. There it is. Mitochondria convert the chemical energy stored in food into compounds that are more convenient for the cell to use. So it takes the food we take in and turns it into energy. What's the function of chloroplasts? Remember, chloroplasts are found in plants and in some other types of organisms. So what do chloroplasts do? Plants and some other organisms contains the chloroplast. Chloroplast captures sunlight and converts it into chemical energy in a process called photosynthesis, which we will have a whole chapter about. What's a function of the cytoskeletons? Well, we're human. We have skeletons. Cells have skeletons. So you see here, cyto, that prefix means cell. The cytoskeleton is a network of protein filaments that help the cell to maintain its shape. The cytoskeleton is also involved in movement. So if a test question comes up and says, what kind of role does the cytoskeleton play? Well, it can maintain the cell shape. It can also be involved with movement of the cell. The cytoskeleton is made up of microfilaments, which are thin, and microtubules, which are a little thicker. I'll show you a picture of that. I gotta go back to previous. Okay, here we go. So this is the cell membrane on the outside of the cell. Here's the endoplasmic reticulum. You can notice the ribosomes on there making it rough. Here's the microtubules, the cytoskeleton, one of the types of cytoskeletons. Microtubules, and this very thin green line is microfilament. Okay? Well, that takes care of today's lesson. Please make sure you do the other assignments. And if you have any questions, please contact me at any time. Remember, have fun and enjoy learning. Thank you.